if he's trusted me through a good portion of the process, then there will be some trust to dig in a little bit deeper inside himself, I believe, to explore something. Sometimes I talk about, would you consider, and let him decide. And through that, I'm hoping that he will explore and he will try maybe a new move or something different or a new way of thinking.
Welcome to the Parenting Athletic Kids podcast. My name is Travis Rogers. I'm a mental performance coach and the father of two athletic boys. Through this podcast, I hope to deliver actionable strategies that you can implement to help your son or daughter optimize their personal and athletic growth. I also help these conversations help you enjoy the ride. If you find this podcast useful, please be sure to like, share, and follow. Today's guest is Bill Mueller. Bill spent 11 seasons in Major League Baseball. He won the American League batting title and the Silver Slugger Award in 2003. In 2004, he was the starting third baseman for the Boston Red Sox World Series championship team. Bill has been a professional coach, a college coach, and is currently working as an assistant coach at Hamilton High School in Arizona. Bill has 3 kids. His youngest is a high school sophomore who plays baseball at Hamilton. This was a beautiful conversation and a great listen for parents, coaches, coach parents, and athletes. Here we go. Bill, welcome to the Parenting Athletic Kids podcast, man. It's great to have you. I think this is going to be a super valuable conversation for parents from your background in sports and playing days and coaching and to what you're doing now. I've seen you working with your son a little bit, so I know you're engaged in the youth sports um, process right now. So, Bill, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here, Trav.
Yep, super pumped about it. Tell us, let's go back, and you can go back as far as you want, but let's start with your playing days, baseball or other sports or wherever you want to take it, and kind of leading up to right now and coaching and where that's gotten you at this point.
I guess I'll start with the high school since I'm back around it a little bit more here in Arizona. But regular 4 years of high school, was fortunate to make the varsity team as a sophomore. Didn't play hardly at all. I think I might have had maybe 6 at bats. There was some controversy there of should I have played junior varsity and played every day, or do I stay on the varsity team and practice with the varsity, but not get a lot of playing time, which I did not. But I think in the big picture of things, that was the right move. In the smaller picture, it was hard to grasp because you're playing your whole life and it's hard to not be playing. But in the big picture, it worked out great. But uh, was recruited by Missouri State, some Oklahoma State. Ended up down there at Missouri State with Keith Cutton. Played 4 years down there. Was not drafted as a junior. I believe they had some extra rounds as well with Arizona and Colorado coming in, so it was a bit disappointing. But came back my senior year, was Missouri Valley Player of the Year there in the Missouri Valley. That summer, before that season, I went to Cape Cod, lost the batting title the last day. So my dad used to have a saying, "Don't get bitter, get better." And so I went and just tried to get better, and ended up being drafted from not being drafted at all as a junior to about the 15th round with the Giants as a senior. Um, Drafted in 93, went to Everett short season from 93 to 96. At the end of 96 season, I believe it was like August, September. Matt Williams broke his foot, um, and I got called up. And the '96 season, I was in AAA and hit 330. And that following season, they traded Matt Williams, and from '97 to 2000, I was with the San Francisco Giants. Um, but I think, to recap, when I got that call up with the Giants, it was an accumulation of all the people that I've surrounded myself with and all the hard work and all that to take advantage of that small opportunity. And I think that's what kind of gave me a platform or springboard to stay in the big leagues, that I finally get an opportunity. The job, third base job's mine. And I took advantage of it. I hit 330, like I said, in 2 months of my time. And it catapulted me to an opportunity to get more time. And from 97 to 2000, I was with the Giants, traded in the offseason of 2000 at the end of that season. And then '01, '02 Cubs, '03, '04, '05 Boston Red Sox, and then '06, '07 Los Angeles Dodgers. And it's kind of my career in a nutshell. And then on to my coaching stuff after that, and player development, Dodgers, let's say '07 to 13, 14, I was hitting coach with the Cubs, 15 through 18, hitting coach with the Cardinals, uh, player development with the Nationals 22 and 23, hitting coach with the Marlins 24, and now I get to sit back and relax a little bit.
That's an amazing run. A couple questions on that stuff that you just went through. You said that in retrospect, like your sophomore year and not playing too much, getting 6 at bats or so was a good thing. How do you look back at it as it was a positive?
Because I think it starts you start to put pieces in your back pocket of, like, eventually you're going to have to learn how to compete. And that was the first time that I was like, who's the mark, or how do I beat this guy out, or what's it going to take to be a starter, where up until that point all you ever got to do was play.
Mm,
And that was the first time where I wasn't the starter. I didn't win the job. I had a better player in front of me. How am I supposed to start this process of learning how to play or be in that realm of competing for a spot? And that was the start of it. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that was a component. I didn't know that would be meaningful, but that was the kind of the undertones of that season, is how do I get better to beat somebody or to win a job? And that's kind of started the process. And it's a major component if you want to continue to play at certain levels. So that's why I thought it was, you know, later positive. At the time, I was like, I'm not playing. What's going on? And
yeah,
yet, at some point in your life, you're going to have to learn how to start to evaluate the people around you, be a realistic evaluator of yourself, and then, you know, find a way to get better and find a way to win a job.
really cool. How did you so later when was it you were like reflecting on that? So I'm just thinking about, you know, at Hamilton we have some sophomores on the team right now that aren't getting a lot of playing time. Um and are probably in the same situation. So it wasn't in the moment of that situation where you looked at it and said, you know what, I got to figure out how I can get on the field here. It was later down the road you reflected on that. Is that right? Like,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, I didn't have the psychology part of anyone telling me about that component either. Maybe that could be different if people help with that component. And, I speak about it a lot. It's like, when do you learn how to compete? When do you learn how to win a job? And, there's certain, spots that, if that's happening, or if you see in the future that it's going to happen, that you can start to advise, and help in that situation and guide that person with that situation. But at the time, I didn't have any of that. I would just like, you know, shoot, I'm not playing, you
yeah,
know, and but later when you start transitioning from the student to the teacher, you start to understand some of these markers that were more meaningful than they were at the start. And because when you start teaching and you're like, well, where did I learn how to compete, or where did I learn to be positive with myself, or where did I learn how to handle adversity? You go back in time and start um, taking down the steps and finding those pieces along your path. And that's how I kind of did it.
Really cool. I think that's kind of in a nutshell why we're doing this podcast is so parents can be that um you know, have the big picture in mind and reflect on their lives and even reflect in the younger years on their if it is a sophomore in high school right now, reflecting on when they were 8, 9, 10, and helping their son or daughter reflect on those. And do you remember when it was hard and what that looked like and how you overcame and all those kinds of things. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Another question kind of on your background. So junior year didn't get drafted, go off to the Cape Cod League. Obviously, had a really great season at the Cape Cod. Um,
And
how
it was disappointing not to be drafted. Like that was a big goal, you know. You're starting to play with all these other players and you see them go in the draft and then you're not. You know, it was a little heartbreaking. But again, there's another piece, there's another pillar of, well, I need to compete better. I need to get better. I need to reevaluate me. What do I need to do differently? And so that was a big another pillar of helping myself become better. Sorry, keep going, Travis.
no, no, that's exactly where I was going with that is like how you overcame that frustration. I think that obviously would be a really hard situation and hard to manage. Did you have support in that? Like, did your parents help guide you through that, or was that something you kind of just reflected on yourself and said, okay, from here forward, what's Cape Cod going to look like for me this year? How do I get
Yeah.
drafted? Or did you have support in that?
Yeah, support with obviously your parents. You know, like my dad had those sayings. He always had all these different sayings. You never know who's watching. Don't get bitter, get better. And that was the thing. It's like, hey, again, don't let this tear you down. You know what I mean? You have to you just have to find a different path of why you weren't. And he says you just gotta you have to work harder, or you have to improve your skills in this area. So there was guidance in that regard of proper self evaluation. And I remember waking up, I'd run to the gym. I was living with a host family. I'd run like a mile to the gym. I'd go there and lift in the mornings. I'd run a mile back and then I go to my job. And then I played, you know, against the best competition, first time with a wood bat. And again, it was another stepping stone of can I compete against the best kids in the country with the wood bat and prove to people that I can play, that I do belong, and that was a big step. But my parents, obviously, the coaching staff at Missouri State was very influential because I spent so many years there, and their guidance as well as their experience, and they're just true great individuals. So, yeah, you know, it takes a village of surrounding yourself with the right combination of positivity and reality, and it worked.
That's really cool. All right. Tell us a little bit about your kids. I know you have three, well, kids, maybe the older ones aren't really kids anymore.
Yeah.
But run us through, their sports experience. Let's start with that. The three kids and their sports
Yeah, the
experience.
oldest one, Lexi, all soccer all the way through. Um, always competing to be a starter. Um, ended her senior year in high school, but took some of those values and some of that drive into her school and into her new career. And I think because things didn't come so easy for her in sports, that she used that some of those adversities to her favor now that she's you know, kind of in that workforce, or that competing in a different way, in a different fashion, not just in its sports, but in her academics, and has excelled. So, again, a positive experience for her, even though at the time, she wanted more, we wanted more. But in the end, I think it's molded her to be stronger as an individual. Tucker, same kind of thing, competed, but probably wanted more playing time or a different spot on the field, but it didn't happen. Again, same thing, using those using that as fuel to continue on to his pursuit of his career outside of playing sports, but it didn't deter him from being such a big sports fan. He loves all sports, and he just I think that's going to be a big component on what he's probably going to get into is some sports field to some degree with sports management because he loves that aspect of the camaraderie, the competition, uh, the chasing a goal kind of thing. So, and then the last guy is the baseball guy. He's sophomore in high school and just trying to get better and compete and learning how to compete and learning how to be a good self-evaluator and learning how to mix the hard work component into the daily stuff of what do I need to do to get better and how to get better. So, I've basically at the infant stages of learning himself and learn how to compete.
Awesome. So I wrote down a bunch of words that you threw out there: values, drive, adversity, competition, camaraderie, hard work. Um, all things that we know that you can get through sport. But sometimes I think all those things get kind of pushed to the side. And you're talking about areas where they can get pushed to the side, where it's, I'm not getting on the field. I'm not in the position that I want to be in. I'm not playing as much as I want. And it can become easy to forget about all those things and just focus on, you know, not taking ownership for it and saying it's the coach is doing this or what, all these different ways as parents our minds can go. Yeah, they should be on the field. How have you helped your daughter and two sons like navigate that? Have you helped them and talked them through that stuff, or is that, have you let that just kind of through sport work through it themselves, or have you been a part of that kind of progression? You talk about now Lexi like liking competition and understanding that adversity can be a part of it and all these great things that sports can do. So does that question make sense? Like, is it something that you prioritize and talked about, or is it something you let sport just kind of work its way through in them?
Yeah, I think there's some guidance in um, the reality of that situation, whether they're good enough or not good enough. But I think I think what I tried to do was start with the positivity layer and talk about all the things that uh, she did well, what she brings to the team, and then what's her competition do that's different, um, what she could improve on that she's not doing so good at, and build in those areas. And then I think you just work towards them trying to improve in those areas first and handle what they can control, um, and give them one piece at a time, not overwhelm them with so many pieces that they can win a piece or dominate a piece that they can be proud of, that they got better at, um, and keep it small and then build from there to help them try and win like accomplish a goal or win it at a competition, um, but not overwhelm them and really keep that all in a positive. framework and not be disappointed if they get the opportunity and don't handle it or don't make it so critical. Because what happened with us is over time that we stuck with them with the things not working out, the relationship's still there, intact, in place, and the trust is still there, and that you can talk about real life things now along with their maturity and help them in other aspects of their life. That you didn't burn any bridges because you were so hung up on this one aspect, or you look like it was your fault that they didn't succeed to some degree. So I think to be, the tones of patience and positivity. Yeah, you definitely have to eat patience for breakfast, and you walk through them with those two things on your shoulders, and then uh, help them or direct them the best you can as far as getting the proper instruction to help them grow in that particular area they may be deficient in. Does that kind of help in that realm of answering it?
Oh yeah, that's a bingo. Where did you come up with this formula? Uh, I mean, if you just take on every conversation, every day, every adversity that shows up, and your kind of motto is patience and positivity, um, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I would say it's uncommon. So, is that something that was just natural for you? Is that over time and adversity through baseball and your years and your ups and downs, you think develop? Like, how am I going to get through this? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it's life's work. I definitely think it's life's work. I think having my dad with h- him being so comfortable with conversations and all his time, effort, his honesty, his positivity. I think there was a good pillar in place to look at and lean on. You know, your parents, your mom and dad, with those pieces of advice. You know, the certain sayings I think that were created. Um, so I think that started it, and then going through it and hitting all those spots of adversity and understanding that, like the advice, the hard work, uh, the patience, all kind of is a real formula to help you um, make progress. But again, it becomes a little bit more concrete as you go through it and are able to go back and reflect on it. You don't know it's the right thing at the time ish, again, because we had nobody to bounce things off of, and there wasn't a lot of psychology coaches or things of that nature at the time. And, you kind of think, well, why did I make it or how did I make it? And because there is a big mental aspect in all this as well as the physical part. So I think you just start piecing these things back in your timeline of that made a big difference and why was that? And I think that's how I became or why I am the way I am now. And I when you go through this process, you get to both sides. Like I've had people on the on the on the wrong side of things trying to teach you on how they taught you, like very critical or um very verbally abusive or very negative, and you learn over time, one, how to handle that and get through it, but also what do you respond best to with going through all these different people and all these different places and and handling all these different guys that you play with, all your different teammates. So you learn through the process of what you think molds or builds or can help yourself or other people. And I think through that process is kind of where I'm at. I don't think it's any one particular person. It's life experiences.
Awesome. So I told Bill before this, I wanted to have him on the podcast, and I thought about it before this, but I saw him in a batting cage working with his son on a random Saturday, and loved the interactions between Bill and his son, the sophomore again in high school, and the positivity um, and the patience showed up there. So those are like if I would have had to describe how you were working with him, it was those two things. Like it was just keep going, you'll get it. Calmly, let's try this. And I actually talked about working on one thing and like getting better at that one thing. I saw the one thing that you guys were working on. You probably didn't know I was like being a stock. Well, you were in the next cage over, but I was. So really is that, are there other foundational things as you work with Dawson or with your other two kids that you would say, here's the foundation that I'm trying to create in my interactions? Well, and they were soccer players, so maybe this is like different with Dawson, that he's a baseball and not a soccer or some other sport. Maybe you've had to kind of hone in that a little bit or be a little bit more careful about what you're saying or doing. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are the things, if you're showing up on a Saturday, what are you trying to be mindful of in your work with him?
Yeah, number one is the trust in the relationship for me with Dawson. Um, that that we that we can have, and he can be honest with me, and that's what I want to keep intact. I want him to always feel like he can be open about anything that he's feeling or that's happening or that's on his mind. So I try and keep that intact at all times. Um, I I layer it with positivity because there is a lot of positivity in what he was doing and everything, and it's hard. Baseball is hard, and but also at some point too is I'm gonna kind of poke at a for him to give me a little bit more, and if he's trusted me through uh, a good portion of the process, then there will be some trust to dig in a little bit deeper inside himself, I believe, to to explore something. um, Sometimes I talk about, would you consider, and let him decide. Um, and through that, I'm hoping that he will explore and he will try maybe a new move or something different or a new way of thinking. Um, but if I don't have that relationship in place, he may not be able to get there or touch that part of himself of applying something that's that's different, because doing stuff that's different when you're trying to change a body movement is hard, and you don't know what the truth is because you're so young. And why am I going to believe me, you know what I mean? Even though I've got this big background, but still I'm just dad to him, so why believe this guy, you know what I mean? And so there's aspects of going through that process where it's not going to work, but that's going to be good, because then we can reflect on why it didn't work, and then it helps us make a positive step to another way of making it work. So I think, to answer your question, the relationship is important. I think that's where I start. And that's where I start with teaching most of all the people, whether I'm in coaching or whatever, is I want the relationship first, and then the trust that what we're doing or how we're doing it, and then I can get into the more the meat and potatoes of them, because they are allowing us to work together, and then now we can make some progress. And I feel like that's and everyone's different, and that's where the patience comes in, and that's where the effort comes in because it might take somebody 1,000 moves to help with creating a new path or helping them improve on something, and may take another kid 200 moves. And you don't know that kind of going in. Sometimes you do. Um, but that's sometimes, and sometimes it never comes out. But again, you're establishing that we're in this together. I'm not walking away from you, you know, um, and how this comes out, we're going to do it, you know, step by step with each other. So I guess relationship would be the pillar.
That's beautiful, and I love the would you consider um, question is
Yeah.
a great way to start a conversation about. I'm sure you, as a great hitter in your time and a great hitting coach, could easily say, "I think you should do this. I think you should do that." But the power behind them taking ownership of it
That's
uh, is amazing. So
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. We want to make it theirs. Like I'm a conduit. But you have to wrap your arms around it yourself as the player. You have to say, "Yes, I understand this," or "I believe this. This is what I want to do," because you have to have that conviction. If you don't have that conviction, then again, you'll be distracted early, and then when times get tough, you're going to fall to pieces. So you want to be able to have that ultimate trust or that ultimate conviction to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful. Not just, I mean, we're talking about hitting here, kind of, but
Sorry,
it. No, no,
life.
no. That's great. I mean, I think it's. I think hitting is really close to life and other things. So if they're taking ownership of their swing and their process and when they want to show up and how much they want to hit, like as they move through this path in baseball or sports or in any path, the self-discovery and the belief in self is at a whole different level than I think it's easy for us again as parents to do this, do that. That's one thing in retrospect with my kids as younger players. I wish it would have been more. What do you want to do today? How And I wasn't. They were pretty passionate about baseball, so there wasn't a lot of that. But I would see something and point it out right away. And then it's me and not them. Yada yada. So I think for parents out there, that's a unbelievable way to start a conversation, have a conversation frame, not just because it'll help them to get better in hitting, whatever it is, but in just in everything. That's super cool.
Yeah, there's a couple moments this season where it wasn't so much the the hit that he got. It was um, that the I guess the atmosphere or the environment of where he was when he got that hit is like, he's over something, um, or he didn't do well or something. And what I the moments that I remember are that he could put it aside, or he could have positive self-talk enough, or he could believe in himself enough, or he had the confidence enough that he could step back in there and then be successful. And those are big moments for me watching him, not just, the daily hit, which is always great, but those moments in that season, I um considered pillars, for him, because that's what I'll go back to is, "Hey, do you remember this?" And how you handle that and what you did and the process and those are the things that I cling to. Yeah, I
That's
love it.
awesome. Yeah, I'm reflecting on a bunch of different things as you say that, and how important, how easy it is to just get wrapped up in the hit or the three hits in the game, where really in the big scheme of things, it's about all those in between
Yeah,
that are so much more valuable. Were they resilient after their first bad at batter? I'll tell a quick story. Um, my son Will, who's at Michigan now, pitched yesterday, 4 innings, uh, pitched really well, gave up 3 runs, 3 solo home runs. Right, so
that's how
he,
you want to give them up.
well, yeah, right.
Yeah,
And he texts
it's all good.
afterwards. He texts me and he's like, "I was throwing batting practice today," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I tried to highlight those guys could probably come up the next 99 times with the same pitch and not hit a home run,
Yeah,
right? He was ahead in all the counts. He bounced back after each home run. The next pitch was a strike.
yeah.
He didn't walk anybody, right? To your point, solos. But it's so easy in this game to go towards the negative stuff. And there was 10 positive things that he did really well. Um, but it's
I
I don't
think
know.
I
Yeah.
think you make a great point because what we are trying to do as parents is um we are trying to arm them the best we can. We're trying to put these plates of armor on them so that whenever these things happen that aren't positive, that they are well equipped, that they can pull from their back pocket pieces or things or sayings or confidence that helps them pull through that and you know be men or be positive or be successful through these things. And I think that's like my example and your example, you're telling them these positives and you're stacking this armor on them of you know hey buddy, you got it. And how you handled yourself is exactly where like that's a positive mindset going forward.
How do you how do you distinguish the positive and actually, and you talked about this, like I need to, when I went off the Cape Cod League or when I wanted to get drafted, I needed to look at things that I had to do better. So sometimes I think parents and coaches, well, if I'm too positive all the time, they're not going to actually look at what they need to change, to fix, to reevaluate, to take a long look at. I think there's a line there somewhere. Do you have thoughts on that? Like, how do you put the two together? Like, I'm going to
Yeah,
look. Yeah.
that's right. So you're always looking to your competition. You're always putting a mark out there. Hey, what does your competition do well? You know what I mean? And how can you beat this player out? What do you need to do differently? That's how I looked at it. Is um, if you're not in that starting role and you're being positive with your player, but he's not starting, what needs to change? And you come to a consensus amongst each other. You ask him and let him decide what he sees that's in front of him or different, and then you make it a decision together of like how can we do this together or how can we get better at this or what do we need to do to be a starter. And and that's where, because you built the right relationship, you can have a and a parent to son or parent to daughter conversation that's a real conversation of, all right, I do these things really well, and these things I'm not so good at. So let's start to attack the things that I'm not so good at, and we're gonna keep the stuff that I'm really good. We're still enhancing that, but we're gonna spend a little bit more focus on other things that need to be improved on. And I think that's how we keep this going in the positive direction, uh, because we're also trying to teach them that they eventually need to compete. They are going to have to compete, and that it's just not always given. And there are people that are better. There are good players out there, and it's not always just going to be what we think the path is supposed to be. It might have to be a position change for a period of time, and you might have to learn a different position that's not your position, and that's okay. Like you might have to view the starting position in a completely different way. That you hit ninth or you hit eighth in a lineup, or you have to play first base, or you come in as a reliever when you think you're a starter. But um, you got to keep an open mind and teaching your young player. Hey, I think I created some balloons there for a second.
Yeah, it was really
That
cool.
was
Thank
unbelievable.
It's not
That was
my
awesome.
it's not my birthday. Uh, I don't know how you did that exactly, but
Yeah, I don't
that's a
want to try
that's
any other hand
on
movement.
the podcast.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's awesome. Like, I think we tend to lean into here's what you need to do better, which is there's some strength in that, right? But
yeah,
I think often as parents, especially parent coaches, and probably especially as dads, it sounds like you're pretty good at this, but here's what you need to do better. Here's what you need to do better. And again, there's some strength in that, but I love starting. No, here's what you do really well. Like lock that in. Know that piece, whether it's being a great teammate or hustling on and off the field or any other controllables. Like keep doing that. That is awesome.
yeah,
I think that's a great way to frame it.
yeah.
Whereas a lot of times it's just easy to go down this negative path of you should be doing this, do this better, whatever. So really cool. Love that. Well, Bill, we'll start wrapping it up. Is there anything else? You covered a lot, man. It was awesome. Really appreciate it. Anything else that you kind of wanted to touch on coming into this?
No, I was just open to help. Give any experience I had on anything that was on your mind. Um, because you just don't know. There's so many different paths for success, but this has just been my experience of what's helped me be successful, and I've just kind of wrapped it all up into how I'm teaching now, and it's just been again the life experiences of the positive and the negative of people that have been around, and just wrapping that all up into one thing and trying to be the best instructor I can now, or the best dad, or the best baseball coach I can, and again, I will say this: I'm continuing always to be part student in this. Um, I'm always open to hearing and learning and trying to get better so that I could help better someone else. And that I think that's part of life's work is I didn't shut the door. I'm still learning from all aspects of people and players and everyone around me. So, but
That's
thank you, Trav, for having me.
absolutely. One other question popped into my head, so I'm not going to quite go yet. As that sophomore in high school when you took a little kick, that year in college when you didn't get drafted, how did you hold on to the passion? What was driving you? Obviously, it wasn't done at that point. You had your junior and senior years in high school, and you had your senior year in college. But what kept you going? Because I know it can be a long and windy road. What do you think drove you through those times?
Yeah, I think there was always a piece in me of there was a strong will of wanting to be the best at whatever I was doing, and uh, proving uh, that I could be a part. It always seemed like I was the smallest guy on the team ish. Um, that I was always competing. That whatever team I was on, I wanted to be the best at, best player on that team. In a sense, there was always that piece in there. I don't know why, but um, there was a there was a there was something that wanted to prove that um, I could I could I could be someone that my teammates could rely on to help them and help the team win. And I always like that. I like to be able to help my group out. I like to be able to help the team. And I learned that in a sense of unselfish because I was like an on base guy at the beginning, a leadoff guy where I'd bunt and steal bases and have like a 12 pitch at bat kind of guy or move a guy over. And I learned to love those things about the game because it helped the guy behind me. Then he'd drive it in or hit a homer or whatever, and that made me feel good. And that's what I wanted to continue to have, and I fell in love with the competition part of that, or the 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 positivity of the winning part or something. I don't know, but there was a strong will in there to be the best, I guess.
And you're not sure why, I was gonna ask that, like, where that came from, if that was an innate thing since the day you started hitting balls or somewhere along the line just kinda grew into that? Not sure
Yeah,
where that.
it's weird. It's like it started when we're in like little leagues. You play on your first club team, and my dad was like, "Hey, this guy Castaldo, he's the best shortstop in our league, and our league was the top division." And I was like, "All right." So for some unknown reason, I'm like, "I want to be like Castaldo. I want to be like him, and I want to be better." And I started. My dad, we'd the the baseball we'd hit ground balls on the asphalt by our house. There was a there was this asphalt path. I lived in a condominium complex, and when the balls lost their leather, we'd tape them up and hit them, and they were black as can be, on the black asphalt. But it was just nonstop ground balls. How do I make plays like Greg? How do I get better? How do I um, become as talented as that player? And for some reason, that was there. I can't tell you why, that was in there to be like, I want to be, as good as that player, and that's the first time I recall of, like, really setting my sights on somebody and saying, "I wanna be better than him," and I feel like later on, I accomplished that. Yeah.
Awesome. Alright. Well, thanks again so much, Bill. Really appreciate it. We'll see you at practice later today. If you'll hang on here for 2 seconds, this thing uploads a little bit, cleans itself up, and then I'll cut you loose. Thanks again, man. Really
Okay.
appreciate it.
You got it, Trav.
Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to like, follow, and share the podcast. If you're looking for more information on strategies that you can use to help optimize your son or daughter's athletic experience, please be sure to check out my book, Parenting Athletic Kids. It's available on Amazon. Thanks again, and we'll be back with another podcast really soon.